I woke up married to my enemy, and no one remembers the past but me. The first thing I noticed was the ceiling. Vaulted, pale ivory with intricate gold trim. It looked like something out of a fantasy novel, too polished, too regal. Not mine. The sheets were cool against my skin, soft like silk, and the faint scent of lavender lingered in the air. I turned my head, and froze. There was a man beside me in bed. Tall, still asleep. One arm curled loosely around my waist, the other under the pillow. His chest rose and fell slowly beneath a white cotton shirt. His hair was tousled in a way that looked effortless. His features were sculpted, sharp jaw, long lashes, perfect cheekbones, too perfect, and horrifyingly familiar. Kai, Den. I couldn't breathe. That was impossible. He was supposed to be dead. Or I was. Or no, in my timeline, he killed my family. He destroyed everything. He smiled as he lit the match that burned my home. He looked me in the eyes as I screamed, and now his hand was resting on my hip, his breath warm against my neck, like we were. I glanced down. A satin nightgown, ivory, trimmed with lace, not mine. And then I saw the ring, a thin gold band on my finger, gleaming in the soft morning light. My heart lurched so hard it knocked the breath from my chest. No, no, no. I scrambled upright, twisting away from him. The movement stirred him, and slowly, he blinked awake. Emma? His voice was low, husky with sleep. He smiled. That same smile, but it was softer now, gentle, loving. Are you okay? He asked, reaching for me. I flinched. He paused. Concern flickered in his eyes. Did you have a bad dream again? Again? My mouth was dry. I think so. You're shaking. His hand brushed my back, warm, grounding. I wanted to scream, but instead, I forced myself to nod. Just a dream. He pulled me gently toward him. Come here, he whispered. You're safe. No, I wasn't, not even close. But I let him hold me, because I didn't know what else to do. My brain was spinning. Everything felt wrong. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. And yet, the details, the weight of the ring, the heat of his body, the scent of his skin, were all terrifyingly real. I needed time. Space? Answers. I think I'm going to shower, I murmured, pulling away. He smiled again. I'll make coffee. Hazelnut, right? I nodded, numb. I slipped into the ensuite bathroom. It looked like a luxury spa. Marble floors, golden fixtures and a mirror that reached from floor to ceiling. And when I saw myself, I gasped. Same face. Same green eyes. But my hair, it was longer, styled in soft waves. My skin glowed, as if touched by sunlight every day. I looked older. Not in years, but in experience. Poise. Like someone who belonged here. But I didn't. I never had. I turned to the side, and saw faint marks on my neck. Bruises. Kisses. Panic clawed at my throat. What kind of world was this? I staggered back into the bedroom, eyes scanning everything. On the dresser, a wedding photo in a golden frame. Him, in a black tuxedo. Me in a delicate off-shoulder gown, laughing as he kissed my cheek. My hand on his chest. The ring sparkling. No, no, no. This wasn't my life. But I couldn't let him know that. Not yet. Downstairs, I heard the sound of a coffee grinder. Humming. He was humming. The man who once hunted my family like animals was humming and acting like the perfect husband. I looked at the photo again. We looked happy. Stupidly, beautifully happy. Like we'd fought for each other. Chosen each other. Had I? No. That wasn't me. That was her. Whoever she was in this timeline. This Emma. This version of me. But I remembered. I remembered the fire, the screams, the betrayal. And no one else did. The coffee was rich, sweet, and exactly how I used to like it. Hazelnut with a touch of vanilla and a bit of cream. It should have felt comforting. Instead, it made my stomach turn. Kaiden had kissed my forehead before leaving for work. murmuring something about dinner reservations and how I should take it easy today. His tone was affectionate, familiar. It chilled me to the bone. Now I stood alone in the house's upstairs hallway, staring at the door to a room I apparently used every day. My office. I pushed the door open. It was bright, airy. Sunlight spilled through a wide bay window, falling across the hardwood floors. Shelves lined the walls, packed with books I didn't recognize. A polished oak desk stood near the window, and beside it, a corkboard covered in neatly pinned papers and photos. I stepped in slowly, like walking into a crime scene. The walls were covered in framed diplomas, all with my name, Emma W. Westmore. Westmore. His last name. Beneath one of the certificates was a photo of me standing in front of a podium, smiling proudly, holding a glass award. The plaque read, "Women in Business, Innovator of the Year." What? I walked to the desk. Every detail was precise, organized. Sticky notes with color-coded tasks. A calendar filled with dinner parties, charity galas, and some meeting with someone named Lady Brielle. None of it made sense. And yet, it all looked like my life. Just not my life. I reached for the nearest drawer. Inside, notebooks, pens, envelopes, and a photo album. I opened it. Image after image of me and Kaidon. At a beach. In front of a snowy cabin. Celebrating what looked like an anniversary with a cake that read 2 years and forever. In every picture, I was smiling. Laughing. Twinkling eyes and glowing skin. Arms wrapped around him like I loved him. Like he hadn't murdered my parents. Like he hadn't burned our ancestral home to the ground. But I remembered the flames licking up the wooden walls. The sound of shattering glass. My mother's scream. My father's blood on the stone floor. I remembered being dragged from the wreckage by my older brother, both of us wounded, coughing smoke. And standing just outside the blaze, watching with empty eyes, Kaiden. Not dressed in a tailored shirt and slacks, not soft-spoken, not humming. That version of him wore black armor. He commanded soldiers like a king. And when our eyes met across the fire, I knew. He'd done it. And he was proud of it. So why now? Did he look at me like I was his entire world? My chest tightened. Either I'd gone insane, or someone had rewritten my world. I clutched the edge of the desk, trying to breathe. There had to be proof. Something in this house that matched my reality. I tore through the rest of the drawers, yanked open cabinets, flipped through folders. Everything pointed to the same story. I was Emma Westmore. Successful, beloved wife of Kaiden Westmore. Philanthropic leader of the Westmore Foundation. No battle. No blood. No fire. I sank into the leather desk chair, shaking. I knew what I remembered. I knew. But the world around me didn't care. And worse, it was trying to make me forget. My hand drifted toward my wrist, rubbing it absently. And I flinched. There, beneath the sleeve of my blouse, was a strange mark, faint, like an old burn. A swirling, incomplete circle, jagged lines stretching from the center like thorns. I touched it. It stung faintly, almost like it was alive. No memory explained it. No part of this world had caused it. But deep inside me, something pulsed in response. This wasn't just a dream or psychotic break. This was magic. I didn't know what kind or how it worked, yet. But I was certain of one thing. I wasn't supposed to be here. And Kaiden Westmore, no matter how warm his voice or soft his touch, was still my enemy. Even if he didn't remember. Even if he loved me now. The scent of cinnamon drifted through the air as I stepped into the kitchen. It was too perfect. Gleaming white countertops, soft matte black accents, everything in its place like out of a luxury design magazine. A vase of fresh flowers sat on the island. A copper kettle whistled gently on the stove. Kaiden stood barefoot near the counter, wearing dark gray slacks and a fitted navy sweater that hugged his frame too well. He glanced up with a small smile, like this was routine. Like I was his world. "Morning," he said, pouring hot water into 2 mugs. "I used the cinnamon blend you like. You think you know what I like?" I forced a smile and nodded. Smells good. He handed me the mug. Our fingers brushed. I tried not to recoil. You didn't come back to bed after I left, he said casually. Couldn't sleep? I wanted to look around a bit, I said, gripping the cup like an anchor. He watched me for a moment too long. You've been doing that a lot lately. I laughed lightly. You know me. Always rearranging things in my head. His eyes narrowed just enough to notice. Yeah, I do. The way he said it sent a ripple down my spine. I sat at the breakfast bar, sipping slowly, pretending not to feel his gaze. I needed time, and a plan. There had to be something here that didn't match the illusion. Something that proved this reality wasn't mine. I have a conference call at 10, he said. But I'll be home by dinner. Should I make reservations again? That sounds nice, I said automatically. He leaned over and kissed my cheek. His cologne was warm, woodsy, familiar. Too familiar. Then, he was gone. I waited until I heard the front door close before moving. The silence was thick now, like the house itself was holding its breath. I set down my mug and started walking. Room by room. The hallway held framed photos. Vacations to places I'd never been. Paris. Kyoto. Santorini. In each picture I was smiling, leaning into Kaiden, looking radiant, looking happy. I didn't remember a single one. There was a painting of us in wedding attire at the end of the hall. He was looking at me like I was made of light. I wanted to rip it off the wall and scream. Instead, I turned and walked faster. The library was full of hardcovers with our initials engraved on the spines. The guest room was pristine, untouched. The master bedroom. Just as I'd left it this morning, and no less haunting. Then I found the hallway leading to the basement. A heavy oak door at the bottom of the stairs caught my attention. It looked different, older, carved with swirling patterns that felt too deliberate to be decorative. My fingers brushed across the surface. The wood was cold, locked. Of course it was. Still, the carvings nagged at something in me. They weren't just ornamental. They meant something. Symbols? Glyphs? I couldn't be sure, but I felt a strange tightness in my chest the longer I looked. Like it remembered something my mind didn't. I turned away and kept searching. In the living room, tucked behind stacked board games in a corner cabinet, I found an old box labeled Emma's Notes. Inside were journals. 4 of them. I pulled one out and opened it. The handwriting was elegant, neat. Not mine, but each page was signed. Emma W. Westmore. I flipped through rapidly. I love him more than I ever thought possible. Kaiden surprises me every day. I didn't think I could be happy like this again. The words clawed at me like lies written by a ghost in my skin. This wasn't my handwriting, not even close. But the entries were dated over the past 2 years. They chronicled a life I had no memory of living. A love I didn't feel. I pressed a hand to my stomach. Nausea swelled. What if I'd been overwritten? What if this version of Emma was gone, and I was just an intruder in her place? I heard the front door open again. Too soon. Footsteps. Kaiden walked in, holding a forgotten tablet. Left this on the porch table, he said, then paused. His gaze dropped to the open journal in my hands. He smiled gently. Found your old thoughts, huh? I nodded slowly. Just refreshing my memory. He walked over and leaned on the edge of the sofa, watching me. His tone was casual, but his eyes were too focused. You've been off lately. Distant. My lips parted, but I didn't know what to say. You okay, Em? He asked. Really? I forced the smile again. The one I was learning too well. Of course, dear. He leaned forward and kissed my forehead. And I swallowed the scream behind my teeth. The sun was warm on my skin, but it felt like a lie. I walked through the neighborhood in a linen coat and sunglasses, clutching a tote bag like armor. Everyone I passed smiled, waved, called me by name. Morning, Mrs. Westmore. Emma, you look radiant today. Tell your husband that charity gala was a masterpiece. My steps didn't slow, but my stomach turned. They all knew me. This version of me, not the real one. Not the one who'd once crawled through ash and blood while Kaiden Westmore burned her world to the ground. How could these people speak so easily, so fondly, about a life I didn't remember living? At the corner of 3rd and Pine, I paused outside a quaint little bookstore. The Drowsy Page. It had ivy curling up its brick facade, and a bell that jingled when I pushed the door open. Inside, soft light, worn carpets, and the comforting scent of paper and dust. There were no customers. Just one woman behind the counter, arranging teacups beside a stack of old leather-bound volumes. She looked up. One eye was sea glass blue. The other, a deep amber. "Ah," she said, as if she'd been expecting me. "You're late." I froze. "Do I know you?" She smiled, a little too knowingly. "No. But I know you." I approached slowly, pulse quickening. "What do you mean?" She gestured to a velvet chair near the counter. "Sit. The tea is still hot." Against every instinct, I did. The woman poured a cup with graceful hands. Her rings clinked softly, silver and bone and one carved from wood. She wore layers of fabric, mismatched but elegant, and a faint scent of dried lavender hung around her like a veil. "I'm Marina," she said. "And you, dear girl, are Emma Westmore." "But not quite." My hands tightened around the teacup. "You know who I am?" I asked. "I know what you are." She stirred her own tea lazily. "You don't belong here, not entirely." I didn't breathe. "You remember another life," she continued. "Another Kaiden, another end. You've broken through the seam of time, or perhaps time broke around you." My mouth was dry. "So, I'm not crazy." She chuckled. "Oh, you might still be. But not because of this." I leaned forward. "Why am I here?" Marina's face softened. "You're not the first soul to cross timelines. But you might be the most determined." "You're saying this is real?" "As real as breath," she said. "As blood. As grief." I felt dizzy. "Then how do I fix it? How do I go back?" At that, her expression changed. "No," she said softly. "That's the wrong question." I stared at her. "I didn't ask to be here. And yet, here you are." I looked down at my wrist. The burn mark still lingered beneath the sleeve of my coat. A warped circle with branching lines. "What is this?" Marina didn't look surprised. "A mark of displacement. Temporal binding. Someone, or something, tied your fate to another. Kaiden?" She raised a brow. "That, I don't know. Perhaps. Or perhaps you were always meant to meet again. Just not like this." I shook my head. "In my life, in the real one. He destroyed everything. My family, my home. In this one," Marina interrupted gently, "your parents died in a car crash, drunk driver, rainstorm. You were 21. I froze. "No fire?" I whispered. "No fire." Tears burned behind my eyes. "Then why do I remember it so vividly?" "Because it happened," she said. "Just not here. And not now." The room spun. "You want to return to your timeline," Marina said. "But I'll warn you, girl, trying to reverse the weave of fate is not without cost." I looked up. "What kind of cost?" Her eyes glinted like twin moons. "If you tear the threads, you may lose more than you intend. Sometimes, what's lost stays lost." I sat in silence for a long time. When I finally stood, she didn't stop me. She only said, "You've been given a second life, Emma. Be careful what you do with it." The night was warm, laced with jasmine and something darker. Anticipation, maybe. The city lights shimmered beyond the wrought iron balcony rails like stars that had fallen too far to shine. I stood there barefoot in a silk robe, holding a glass of red wine I hadn't touched. The wind teased my hair. Somewhere inside, soft jazz played from hidden speakers. It was all too intimate. Too perfect. Like a trap made of comfort. Behind me, I heard him approach. Quiet, almost reverent. "You look like a dream," Kaiden said. I didn't turn. "Do dreams usually wear silk and drink overpriced Cabernet?" He chuckled and came to stand beside me. "Only the ones worth remembering." His eyes lingered on my face. Not just admiring, but studying. Searching. Like he was trying to memorize me. I took a sip just to avoid responding. He reached into his pocket. I found something today. Thought you'd want it back. He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a necklace, antique gold, with a teardrop-shaped red gem set in an ornate filigree. I froze. That necklace? I knew it. My fingers twitched. Images flashed behind my eyes. Not of this world, but the other. My world. Flames. Screaming. A girl. One of the house staff. Clutching that very necklace as Kaiden raised his hand and... I blinked hard. The memory vanished like smoke. You wore this on our first anniversary, he said gently, lifting the chain. It's been in my family for generations. I hesitated. Then, like a dutiful wife, I tilted my head. He clasped it around my neck. His fingers brushed my skin, warm, lingering a second too long. You're quiet tonight, he murmured. I've been thinking, I said. About us. That made him pause. Oh? He asked, trying to sound casual. I want to feel closer to you, I said, letting my voice drop. The way we used to. He turned fully toward me now, eyes searching mine. Emma. You don't have to pretend. A flicker of panic rose. Pretend? I know something's been off. You've been different. Distant. I reached up, laid my hand against his chest. His heartbeat was steady. Real. Infuriatingly real. I'm just remembering what we had, I whispered. Trying to get back there. A long beat passed. Then, gently, he pulled me into his arms. I've missed you, he said. Even when you're standing right in front of me. He kissed me. Slow, tender, careful. I let him believe. Let myself sink into the warmth, the familiarity, the illusion. His hand slid around my waist. Mine around his neck. The silk robe slipped slightly off my shoulder. The wineglass clinked softly on the balcony floor as I set it down, unused. It wasn't real. None of this was real. But his touch was. And worse, so was the part of me that responded. Later, tangled in sheets that smelled like him, the necklace still warm against my collarbone, I stared at the ceiling and hated myself for how easy it had been. How easy it still was. You used to look at me like I held the stars, he murmured beside me. I didn't speak. He rolled onto his side, brushing hair from my face. Sometimes I worry I'll wake up and you'll be gone. His voice cracked just slightly. Like this life, us, is too good. Like it's not meant to last. I met his gaze. And in that moment, for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not the fear of a man hiding something. But the fear of a man afraid of losing something. Losing me. It struck something deep. Too deep. I sat up slowly, clutching the sheets. My heart beat too fast. I need some air, I whispered, slipping from the bed. He didn't stop me. I walked back to the balcony and leaned into the night. The necklace pressing cool against my throat. I looked down at my hands, at the ring, at the mark on my wrist, and felt the storm rising inside me. This wasn't the man I remembered. And yet, I couldn't tell if that made it better or worse. The key didn't exist. Not in any drawer, not in Kaiden's coat pocket, not hidden behind the wardrobe like I'd hoped. But the lock gave me something. Time. Time to think. To watch it. To let the house sleep. It was well past midnight when I crept down the basement stairs, barefoot, heart pounding. I held a bobby pin in one hand, and a tension wrench in the other. Something I'd learned in another life, a different Emma, the one who knew how to survive. The door stood at the end of the hallway like a silent judge. Cold oak, carved with strange, ancient swirls, symbols that prickled across my skin like static. I knelt. The lock was old, mechanical. Good. It took me 30 seconds. The soft click echoed through the silence like a gunshot. The door creaked open. The air inside was colder, heavier, as if the room hadn't breathed in years. Dust floated like ash. The stone floor was marked with a circle, carved, not painted. Symbols spiraled out from its center like a spell frozen in time. To the left stood a small wooden table, old and splintered. Atop it, a mirror. It was unlike any mirror I'd ever seen. Tall, oval, its frame black as obsidian, vines and thorns twisting in the wood. It didn't reflect the room. It reflected something else. Me? But not. I stepped closer. My reflection wore the same face, same body. But the eyes were darker, rimmed in red. There was fire behind her, and blood on her hands. And then, it shifted. The scene inside the mirror changed. I saw my family's old house, burning. Flames licking up the walls, windows shattering outward like screams. I was on the floor, coughing, bleeding, dying. And above me, a figure stood. Not Kaidan. He wore armor, yes. But his face was hidden beneath a mask, silver, with jagged edges and a cruel smile etched where a mouth should have been. He knelt beside me. I tried to cry out. And then? He was gone. Replaced. Kaidan knelt in his place. But this time, he was weeping. He held my lifeless body in his arms, whispering words I couldn't hear. His face was pale, streaked with soot and tears. His fingers brushed blood from my cheek. He wasn't the killer. He was too late. The mirror pulsed. My heart did too. I staggered back, breath ragged. It wasn't him. It was never him. I turned, and that's when I saw the second item on the table. A journal. I picked it up with shaking hands. The leather was cracked, soft. The initials embossed on the cover were mine, ew. But the binding was stitched with thread dyed deep red. Inside the handwriting was mine, but not from this life. It was my hand. The real me. From before. I flipped through the pages. Something is wrong. The dreams feel more real than waking now. Kaidan watches me, but he doesn't see me. Not truly. If this doesn't work, if the ritual breaks, then let this be the anchor for who I am. Tears burned my eyes. This wasn't a fantasy. This wasn't memory. This was truth buried in time. And the version of Kaidan I'd been holding on to, the monster, was a phantom stitched together by pain, by fear, by someone else's manipulation. I dropped to my knees in the middle of the circle. Everything I thought I knew had shattered. Kaidan had never been the enemy. He'd tried to save me. And someone, something, had twisted my memories, rewritten my past to keep me from seeing him for who he really was. I pressed my palm to the cold stone, and the circle lit faintly beneath my skin. Like it recognized me. Like it had been waiting. The forest beyond the city felt older than time. Tall trees loomed like sentinels, their trunks gnarled with age. The air smelled of moss, damp bark, and a faint hint of something else, something metallic and old, like forgotten blood beneath stone. The deeper I walked, the quieter everything became, until the only sounds left were the crunch of my boots on dead leaves and the rush of my own breath. Marina waited at the center of a clearing, sitting on a moss-covered stone, her mismatched eyes gleaming in the moonlight. "You came," she said simply, like she'd known I would. "I found the mirror," I said, my voice hoarse. "The circle, the journal. I saw everything." She nodded, unsurprised. "You're beginning to remember the truth. The man who killed me." I swallowed. It wasn't Kaidan. It was someone else. Someone wearing a mask. Yes. Then why did I remember it differently? Marina looked up at the sky as if the answer was written in the stars. Because someone wanted you to. Someone powerful enough to weave false memories into your soul when you crossed the threshold of death. Someone who feared what you and Kaidan could become if united. My stomach turned. "You said our souls are connected?" "Through lifetimes," she said. "Your bond was forged long before either of you were born in flesh. Lovers in some timelines, enemies in others. But always drawn together, like magnets, like fire and breath." I sat down opposite her, knees trembling. "Why? What does it mean?" "It means," Marina said, "that what you feel for him is not entirely a lie, and not entirely yours alone. You are the echo of many Emmas before you, and he is the echo of many Kaidans." I shook my head. "But he destroyed my home, my family." "No," she interrupted gently. "Someone used your grief. bent it, twisted it, took your pain and wrapped it around his face until you couldn't tell one from the other. Who? I asked. Who did this to me? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her cloak and pulled out a small charm. A jagged crystal bound in wire, blackened at its core. The masked one, she said softly. He is not of this timeline. He followed you here. Or, a part of him did. A shadow. I stared at the charm. So he's still alive? In your world? Perhaps. Or perhaps only a piece of him remains. Clinging to what should have died. A cold wind swept through the trees. I wrapped my arms around myself. What am I supposed to do with all of this? Go back? Find him and fight him again? Marina tilted her head. That is one path. Return. Burn everything. Rewrite fate once more. She stood, stepping closer. But there is another. My heart pounded. What? You could stay. Let the fire die. Choose this life, this Kaiden, this world. Let the old pain die with the ashes. But it's not real, isn't it? She asked. He weeps for you. He touches you like you're sacred. He would bleed to keep you safe. If that isn't real, then what is? I looked away. My throat tightened. Images surged. The way he kissed my forehead, the necklace he gave me, the sound of his laugh when I called him predictable. I don't know if I can trust it, I whispered. Then don't, she said. Trust yourself. She held out the charm. Take this. If you choose to return, it will find the tear in time again. But be warned, when you step through, the woman you are now may not come with you, and the Kaidan you leave behind may never be again. I stared at the charm, then at her. Why are you helping me? Marina smiled, tired and soft. Because once, a long time ago, I chose fire. When I should have chosen forgiveness, and I've been burning ever since. I didn't take the charm. Instead, I stood slowly, heart full of a storm I couldn't name. I need time. You have it, she said. I turned back toward the trees, but before I left the clearing, she called out, Emma! I looked back. If you love him, truly, it won't matter which world you choose. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. It was past midnight when I returned. The house was dark except for the soft golden light coming from the bedroom. I hesitated at the door, my heart already heavy. I knew something had changed. Kaiden sat at the edge of the bed, the small leather-bound journal in his hands, the one I thought I'd hidden in the back of the closet, beneath the old scarves. He didn't look up when I entered. I stood in the doorway, throat dry. You found it, I said quietly. His fingers brushed over the worn cover. How long? I stepped inside slowly. Since the day I woke up here. He finally looked at me, not with anger, not with the warmth I had grown used to, but with something far worse. Disappointment. I thought I was imagining it, he said. The way you looked at me. Like a stranger. Like something you were trying to survive. I opened my mouth, but no words came. He held the journal up. You wrote things down like I was a danger. Like you were planning for escape. Like I wasn't real to you. I didn't know what was real, I said, voice cracking. I was scared. I remembered something else, a different life. A version of you that what? He snapped, standing. Killed your family? Burned your world? Is that who you see when you look at me? Tears burned my eyes. I saw it, Kaiden. I lived it. Or I thought I did. I didn't know what to believe. His expression twisted with pain. But you didn't believe me. Not once. I took a step forward. You have to understand. I do, he said sharply. I understand that I've loved a woman who's been terrified of me every time I touched her. Who flinches when I say her name. Who kisses me like she's playing a part. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, he said, his voice breaking. And I don't even know who I'm supposed to be anymore. The husband you loved? Or the monster you remembered? Silence stretched between us. Then, he placed the journal gently on the nightstand and stepped past me toward the door. Where are you going? I asked, panic rising in my throat. I don't know, he said. Somewhere I can breathe. Kaiden. He didn't look back. The door closed behind him with a soft final sound. And I stood there, the echo of his absence louder than any scream. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my hands trembling in my lap. The necklace he gave me still hung around my neck. It felt heavier now, like a reminder of every moment I'd questioned, every touch I'd doubted. I reached for the journal and opened it to the last page. My words stared back at me. I don't know if I can love someone I once feared. But I think I already do. A sob escaped before I could stop it. It wasn't fear anymore. It was grief. Grief for the pain I'd caused. For the man I'd begun to love. Not because he was perfect, but because he wasn't. Because he tried. Because he held me like I was sacred, even when I pulled away. And now he was gone. The tears came harder than they ever had before. Not from fear. Not from memory. From loss. Real, aching loss. I curled up in the bed, wrapping the blanket around me like a shield. But it didn't warm me. Nothing did. The house was too quiet without him. Too hollow. Too real. And for the first time since waking in this world, I wanted him back. Marina's house stood like a crooked tooth at the edge of the forest, half swallowed by ivy and thyme. The sky was bruised with storm clouds. Wind tugged at my coat as I stepped onto her porch, fingers tight around the crystal charm she had once offered me. "I'm ready," I said, though my voice betrayed me. Marina opened the door slowly. She wore the same layered robes, but her expression was harder now. Sadder. "You're certain?" she asked. "No," I whispered. "But I thought I was." She stepped aside to let me in. The room smelled of rain and sage. The floorboards creaked beneath my feet as she led me into the back, where a low wooden table sat at the center of a chalk-drawn circle. The charm pulsed faintly in my hand. "If you do this," Marina said, "you may not remember this world the same way. You may not remember him." "I know," I said. "That's why I have to say goodbye." She didn't try to stop me. She only reached for the matchbox and lit the surrounding candles. The room flickered with golden light. I knelt in the circle and placed the charm at the center. The air changed. It felt heavier, darker, like something had noticed. Suddenly, the flames on the candles quivered, then went out. I froze. "Marina?" I breathed. She didn't answer. From behind me, the wind howled, and something stepped into the room. Not a man. Not a creature. A shadow. Long-limbed, face obscured, eyes burning with a familiar poisonous gold. The same gold I'd seen in the mirror. The mask was gone, but I knew. I knew. "You," I whispered. It lunged. I barely rolled out of the circle in time. The charm shattered in a burst of black light. Marina shouted something, a spell maybe, but it was too late. The shadow struck her with an invisible force. She crumpled to the floor. I scrambled to my feet, heart hammering. The creature advanced, slow and deliberate. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. Its presence screamed, "You don't belong here." And maybe it was right. But I didn't want to leave anymore. Not like this. Not now, not after everything. Then, light. A rush of wind. The front door shattered inward. Kaiden. His silhouette filled the doorway, rain soaking his coat, eyes wide with fury and fear. "Emma." He shouted. The shadow turned. It knew him. Kaiden didn't hesitate. He threw himself at it with no weapon, no shield, only raw instinct and rage. They crashed into each other like two worlds colliding. I screamed his name. The shadow was faster, stronger. It drove Kaiden back, slashing across his chest. Blood sprayed the floor, but he didn't stop. He tackled it again, pushing it back, away from me, from Marina. Away from the circle. The creature roared. And then, in a burst of flame and light, it vanished. The room fell still. Kaiden collapsed. I was already running. I dropped to my knees beside him, pressing my hands to his chest, trying to stop the bleeding. "No, no, no, you can't do this, you can't." His eyes fluttered open. He smiled weakly. "I'd do it again," he murmured. "If it meant giving you a choice." Tears slid down my cheeks. "I don't want to go back." He exhaled shakily. Good. I want this. I want you. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. He reached up, brushing a trembling finger down my face. You're here now. That's all that matters. And for the first time since waking in this strange, broken world, I finally believed it too. The hospital room was still. Sterile white walls. Soft beeping. The smell of antiseptic and flowers that someone, probably one of his staff, had delivered that morning. Kaiden lay in the bed, pale but alive. His chest rose and fell slowly beneath the thin blanket, his left hand wrapped in gauze, a bruise blooming along his jaw. His eyes were closed. I hadn't left his side in 2 days. I'd memorized the way his face looked in sleep. Peaceful, vulnerable, real, not the monster I'd once believed. Not the illusion I had feared. Just him. My husband. And maybe now, finally. Mine too. The moment his eyes opened, I felt it. Hey, I whispered. He turned his head, slow and careful. When his gaze found me, there was a flicker of pain, and then warmth. You stayed, he said, voice raspy. I did. He blinked. Why? I leaned closer, brushing his fingers with mine. Because now I remember the truth. He watched me for a long time, like he wasn't sure he believed it. Like he was afraid if he blinked again, I'd vanish. I thought I lost you, he said. You almost did, I admitted. But not because of what happened that night. He swallowed hard. Then why? Because I couldn't let go of the fire. I reached for the side of his face. I let it burn so long inside me, I forgot how to feel anything else. He leaned into my palm. You feel something now? Yes, I said. Everything. We didn't need more words after that. Just silence. The kind that meant safety. 2 weeks later, I sat in my home office with the windows open to the spring breeze. The scent of fresh rain drifted through the curtains, and birdsong echoed from the trees. Everything felt new. Or maybe it had always been new, and I just hadn't noticed. My journal lay open on the desk, not the one from the false Emma, not the one full of fabricated memories and practiced handwriting. This one was mine. I picked up my pen, hesitated, then began to write. I've lived 2 lives, one filled with fear, one with hope, and somewhere between them, I found the truth. I paused, listening to the wind. He wasn't the man who killed me. He was the one who tried to save me, even when I didn't want to be saved. Even when I believed the worst in him. Even when I didn't remember how to love. I turned to a clean page. At the top, I wrote the title I never thought I'd give anything connected to him. To the man I hated, and learned to love. I closed the journal. Outside, I heard Kaiden's voice calling my name from the garden. Laughter in the background. A visiting friend. Maybe Morena. Maybe not. I smiled, stood, and walked toward the door. My name was Emma Westmore, and for the first time it felt right. Not because someone told me it should, but because I chose it. Because I chose him. And he chose me, again and again. Even when he didn't have to. This wasn't the life I expected. It was better.